You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Lindsey Graham's death reveals poignantly tragic reason he sold out to Trump. Analyst, based on an article by Robert Davis. Lindsey Graham did not miscalculate. He chose the deal, the bargain. The source tries to dress Lindsey Graham's political trajectory in tragedy, as if he were a man chasing an impossible ideal and accidentally trapped by history. That is too generous. The story itself says what mattered. Graham sold out to Trump for influence, for relevance, and to keep his seat. That is not confusion. That is an institutional bargain. Who held power? Trump held the real power. Graham did not bring Donald Trump back from some neutral middle ground. He helped normalize and re-legitimate a leader who had already shown what he was. Graham's role was not to restrain Trump from the outside. It was to provide Senate cover from the inside, where loyalty can be converted into legitimacy and legitimacy can be converted into power. The myth of influence. This is the recurring scam of Republican influence politics. They tell themselves they are staying close to Trump so they can steer him. What they usually buy instead is obedience with a better suit. The source notes Graham wanted sway over Trump's foreign policy. Fine. The problem is that aspiration was never separate from self-preservation. Influence became the respectable word for surrender. The real damage. The article's framing leans on pathos, calling that outcome poignant and tragic, but the tragedy here is political, not personal. Graham helped reconstruct Trump's authority after the 2020 election. That meant helping rebuild the apparatus that makes authoritarian behavior look like ordinary governing. The cost was not abstract. It was the continued laundering of Trump through Congress, where enablers turn crisis into procedure and call it statesmanship. What the story misdirects. The focus on Graham's supposed inner conflict softens the actual decision-making chain. This was not one senator being swept along by events. It was a deliberate choice by a Republican power broker to stand with Trump because the party had become dependent on him. The problem is not that Graham failed to save the soul of the GOP. The problem is that he treated the GOP's corruption as something to manage rather than defeat. The pattern. This is how institutional decay works in plain sight. Ambitious politicians identify the dangerous force, then decide access matters more than principle. They call it pragmatism. They call it realism. But it is just accommodation with consequences. The result is a party structure that rewards submission, punishes resistance, and keeps handing more authority to the strongest man in the room until the institution itself is hollowed out. The lesson is not that Graham was uniquely weak. It is that Republican power has become organized around enabling harm and then sentimentalizing the enablers afterward. That is not tragedy. It is the operating system. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Raw Story for today's article. With the automated voice of Kuzal, thanks for listening.